Good afternoon and welcome
Blog
to the Business
Talk
Success
Radio.
Podcast. Good afternoon and welcome to the Business Success Podcast. This is being brought to you by Time to Play Foundation, which is a not-for-profit 501c3 corporation with a mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others through programs, public awareness, outreach activities, events, and learning opportunities that further the concept of enjoying life. You can check out timetoplay.com for opportunities to find ways to do things better. And our purpose with this business podcast is to help new entrepreneurs succeed in what is a very difficult endeavor, and that is beginning or building a business. And what we're talking about this afternoon is that education is essential, because regardless of the experience, regardless of the expertise, regardless of the knowledge that you possess, you're going to need to continue learning about so many things that are part and parcel of succeeding in business. And happily, somebody else has joined us on the call.
So there, it's Doreen. Do introduce yourself a little bit, and John and me, and who else is with us today?
Murray Kleiner.
Okay.
Hi, Murray.
Okay.
So let's do
Thanks
it
for
quick
joining us,
so that
Murray.
people know why we're qualified to be part of this.
Okay. My
name
is Jerry Siegel. My business is LIASB Management Training, Coaching, and Development. I'm a CPA by my first career, and I have spent the remainder of my career as A, running a company of 125 people as CEO, and B, spending the past 30 years in management training and development. John, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm John Hill. I'm the founder of the Long Island Advancement of Small Business. We're there to help small businesses survive and grow in this tough economy, especially on Long Island. My background is I've been president of 3 public companies. I raised $7.5 million on Wall Street. I taught the MBA program at CW Post, and now I teach out at Stony Brook University.
Murray?
Yeah, this is Murray Kleiner. My company is Murray Kleiner Associates, and I'm also a member a member of the board of directors on the LIASB. And as part of the LIASB, I also run a group called the New Entrepreneurs Group, which is designed to help people who are interested in starting a business or recently started a business, or also people who are just looking to make a change in their lives, like changing jobs and careers, and just finding it very difficult to make a decision. And we invite them in to brainstorm together and to help them along.
Excellent. And I'm Doreen Guma. I'm the founder of the Time to Play Foundation, and my vision is, and my background is in quality improvement. I'm a 20 years experience, and I'm a board-certified healthcare executive. My specialty is quality improvement. So we look at, in business success and the business world here, which is why we're doing this podcast, a significant portion of businesses fail in the first 3 years. So what we're trying to do is give people education and preparation in order that doesn't happen. Not that failure is a problem. We talked about that before. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from our failures. But if we can be more prepared, and education, which is our topic today, is an incredibly important component of that. If anybody does have any suggestions, to please contact me. My phone number is 631-331-2675, or email Doreen@timetoplay.com. We're always available to listen to the people and to be able to provide the resources for better life for anybody that is participating with us in this foundation's endeavor. So thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. And before we get started about talking about education and necessary education, we have a couple more people who have joined us on the call. If anybody would like to say hello, we have somebody from a different area code that I do not recognize, an 814 area code, and we have somebody else from Suffolk County in New York.
That'd be me, Suffolk County, Gina Lalo. How you doing?
Okay, Gina.
Hi, Gina. Gina is part of our board. She's been a business person for 10 years, Gina?
probably around that, yep.
So she's a wealth of information and helpful to us. So go ahead.
Okay, and the person from outside the area apparently just wants to listen, but please know that if you have a question, if you have something you want to make a point of, you're able to speak while you're on the call. As I said, we're talking about education. We're talking about what do you need to learn and where can you obtain the knowledge. And that can be expensive, or it can be less expensive by utilizing some resources. Now, here on Long Island, as John Hill mentioned, we have the LIASB, the Long Island Advancement for Small Business, which is an organization that is designed to help small business compete against the industry giants by learning and growing and developing themselves and their organization. As part of that, as Murray mentioned before, they formed the New Entrepreneur Group, and they meet monthly out in Suffolk County in Hauppauge, New York, one evening a month to help new entrepreneurs ask questions and interact with some experienced business people to determine what they can do, how they can handle certain of their issues that they're dealing with, and to learn some of the aspects that we've covered previously in the prior discussions. We've talked about starting with a business plan. We've talked about goal setting. We've talked about a budget. We've talked about the fact that you're going to be a salesperson if you're starting a business, whether you should start alone or have partners join you. And one of the points that we've made in the discussions is that frequently you can enact a partnership that is not a genuine partnership, but is a win-win arrangement with somebody who is in a related business or sometimes even an unrelated business, where you can help one another, make contacts for one another, and make contacts with people who can help you build your business, centers of influence, as well as prospective clients or customers. We've talked about managing oneself, managing your time. We've talked about managing your money, and we spent the last 2 weeks talking about failure and then about risk. Risk is always in the equation because when you begin a business, you are taking a risk, and what you're doing by learning and by educating oneself is minimizing that risk. Most businesses do not succeed. It is not easy to start and succeed in business, and that is certainly something that is necessary to remember at all times. However, it can be a little easier when you utilize resources such as those I mentioned. In addition, you have SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives, people who have been there and done that and are willing to provide and devote their time to helping younger people learn from previous mistakes and previous failures. Again, what we're talking about in every area is obtaining wisdom that's necessary, because even though the only constant in life is change, wisdom is something that does not change. And what was learned many years ago still applies today in many respects, such as starting with a business plan, starting with goals, and having a direction for oneself. With that said, we also have the ability to utilize business coaches. I do executive coaching for some of my clients, and my role is to listen to their challenges, to help them develop plans of action to overcome and achieve goals, and then hold them accountable to take the action in order to do that. Because, again, one of the issues that everybody faces is that typically we are only accountable to oneself, and the entrepreneur has that challenge from the beginning. With those points made, let me throw it open for discussion and see what those on the line want to share as far as providing and utilizing opportunities for education and learning, which is so important.
Hill, let me jump in here, because the thing that bothers me is we talk about education. You go to school and you're finished, but that's not the case in the business arena. I mean, you have to be continually learning on a regular basis. For example, Bill Gates used to take a week off every year just to read books that he wanted on business. I thought that was very interesting. And man, that's the richest man in the world still takes a week off every year just to go out and read books on business. And anybody that I know that's been running companies and so forth, they always have a book on some sort of business or something regarding their business that they're involved with on a continual basis. I don't know anybody today. I don't know anybody today that runs a company that does not take the time to continually learn. And if you don't learn, you fall by the wayside, especially now.
I agree, John. Absolutely. And, you know, I am always reading books. Like every week I have a new one. And I keep them. My husband's like, can we throw out some of these books? I'm like, no, I keep them. I go back to things all the time. And I listen to other people and what they recommend as well, because when you're in a business, you have to be fresh all the time. If you stay the same, other people will pass you by. And the way that everything turns so quickly nowadays with technology and, you know, the internet, people don't shop the way they used to. You have to be visible. You have to be out there. You have to use cutting edge. You have to, you know, collaborate, I think. And that's one of the things I love about the Long Island Strategic Alliance Coalition. We're a collaborative organization to be able to pull together resources. Not everybody is an expert in everything. And that's the foundation, too. That's the mission and founding principles, people helping people, collaboration equals success. You know, we all can work together and we all can succeed. So I appreciate that very much, John. I think it's so important to stay fresh and to spark new ideas. And you know what? It helps us to prevent boredom, too. We're a business person because we don't want to be in the same day every single day. Is that correct? Like, do you guys find that as a benefit?
I can never use the word bored.
No, very definitely, Doreen. I mean, we know that the only constant in life is change. And in regards to John's point about as far as reading is concerned, statistics show that the average American reads less than one book a year. Successful business people, as John mentioned, are reading constantly because it is essential to learn better ways to do things, because the greatest enemy of excellence is good, and people frequently get caught up in the fact that things are going well. When things are going well, that's the time to make changes, because with the way the world is changing so rapidly, as you mentioned, Doreen, with technology, change needs to be constant. But it needs to be done intellectually. It needs to be done with knowledge about what you are changing and what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be doing things differently. One of the things that I've always stressed for clients is to look at the other people in your business, see what they're doing, know your competition, and know what they are changing and how they are changing. Not that everything they're going to do is going to be successful, but when you know what they're doing, you have a greater opportunity to utilize that information in your specific business. And again, it is going to be very difficult because there is so much competition out there, and because of technology, the world is changing so rapidly that it is very difficult to keep pace, which is another reason why one of the key points in business education is understanding that team is the best way to accomplish anything. Now, a team does not have to be paid employees. A team can be an organization such as Doreen mentioned, the Long Island Strategic Alliance Coalition Partnership, where a number of not-for-profit organizations such as this one and such as the LIASB are coming together to help one another, to build each other's organization. And as I said, there are many other opportunities for similar areas that can be utilized without necessarily employing other people.
I think one of the big problems we have today is the fact that people are still thinking locally and not thinking globally. For example, I had a company that that I in my other life I do trade shows. I'm a trade show coach, and one of the problems that one gentleman ran up against was this company was every year the company would buy a new trade show booth from him. And he just took it for granted they were going to buy it from him. Well, lo and behold, a company from India came in, cut his price by at least 30%. They had no other choice, but the company bought it from the company in India. So I don't say that's right. I'm just saying those are the things you have to be concerned about. You can't think locally anymore. You have to think globally, whether you want to or not.
I would like to focus on a different point, something that Jerry said initially, saying that most businesses fail, and that's true. But I think it's important for those people who are listening to this podcast and who are considering going to business that they shouldn't be scared off by that statement, even though it's true. And the reason that most businesses fail is the reason we're having this podcast, and that is because that there is a lack of education. And because of that lack of education, they approach the business not knowing some of the major reasons why businesses fail and how they can prevent those reasons from occurring. And so what people need to do is, rather than just jump into a business, the first thing they have to do is educate themselves. And the education consists of, basically two large parts. The first part is if you're going to be offering a product, if you're going to be selling clothing, men's or ladies' clothing in a store or online, or if you're going to be providing some kind of a service, you have to become knowledgeable in that. You have to become an expert in that. And then the second part is knowing how to run a business regardless of what kind of business. There are things involved in there. And so sometimes some people say, they're fed up with their current jobs and say, I'm leaving this job, I'm going to go start a business, and they get money or they borrow money, and they make all of the wrong mistakes. The good news is that they can get an education in this because there was a time when it was difficult to find good advice or to get a good education. But we have so many organizations now, not just in the country, but even here on Long Island, and LIASB is one of them, where they can come in, you can meet other people, ask questions, get advice, and learn something before you go out. For example, at LIASB, at every morning event, we begin the event by having a business development session, and that's where we break up into groups, and you can get to talk about your individual problems, whether you already have a business and you have a problem with it, or you're contemplating something, and you get to talk with other people. You're going to get advice, you may get recommendations, they'll tell you who else to speak with, and you get to learn something. And then you can, after something like this, then you can evaluate yourself and ask yourself if I am ready to start a business.
This is very important. And, there's a ton of resources out there, too. John and I were talking earlier this morning even about we on Long Island have the Miller Business Center, and John uses them continuously to get information that is helpful for his mission, vision, and purpose through the LIASB. And he actually sent me some great statistics this morning that I'm going to use to further outreach regarding what we're working on here with this Business Success podcast. Everything has an opportunity for improvement. And the statistic that we did speak of is the potential failure of business. Anything has a potential failure in any situation in your entire life. But again, this education piece and this proactive, spoken about, people can go back in the archives of the Empower Half Hours and look for the other Business Success podcasts. The opportunity to pick up one small tidbit of information could be all the difference. The Miller Business Center here, and I believe a lot of states have like small business development centers, take advantage of this information. And we've talked about in the past using experts like John Hill or Murray Kleiner or Jerry Siegel or Gina Lalo, to be able to say to them, hey, or me, the best I can help, but, I'm thinking of, how do I do this? Trademarking, incorporating. You could pay thousands of dollars, like not kidding. When I started the foundation and I wanted to trademark Time to Play, it cost me $14,000. I'm not even kidding. My husband still have my head at this point. But anyway, I've learned lessons. I've done research. I've gone to patent and trademark meetings, different groups that meet in our community, and I've learned, and I do everything myself now. So such a significant cost savings. Incorporating, you can go to an attorney and spend $1 billion, or you can go on the state registry and you can learn to do it yourself. It's, I think, $75, I think, to file for a incorporation for a business. Mm-hmm. Ways of doing stuff, but all you have to do is ask a person who's successful.
And the beauty is over here, Doreen, is that, and this is important to say, all you have to do is ask, and the beauty is that there are people that you can ask, and we got to check that out. Like I said, years ago we didn't have this, and in the last 15, 20 years or so, this has been growing on Long Island, various groups, LIASB, and there are others, AHIA and so on, that and people who listen to this podcast should go back and listen to previous podcasts and take this as the first stepping stone. Help is available, knowledge is available, and it doesn't have to cost you anything. But you should take the time to go to these groups, and from these groups, you'll learn what your next step should be. And you'll be well prepared, when you're ready to go ahead and start a business. And you're right. You can spend a fortune on lawyers, accountants. People will tell you should get trademarks and patents. And you can burn up all your money before you even start a business. And you have to be careful with that.
Well, you talk.
Let me interject here. I'm sorry, Gina, for interrupting you. Go ahead.
He's been trying to speak. Sorry. Go ahead, Gina.
No, I don't want to interrupt the synergy there. Go ahead.
Well, what I was about to say is that what most people do not recognize, do not understand, is that knowing the specifics of their business, their industry, their profession is certainly essential, but it's just a small piece of the total. Typically, the specifics of one's business or industry are only 20-25% of the total, because everybody needs communication, everybody needs goals, everybody needs a mission, a vision, a purpose, everybody needs a payroll, everybody needs human resources, they need an accountant, they need an attorney, they need time management. All these areas that are beyond the specifics of what they may be knowledgeable about on day one are things that they either need to learn themselves or obtain outside resources, which can be expensive, as you mentioned. But some of it is necessary, because obtaining expertise from somebody that has been doing this for their entire career can save one from making a tragic mistake. And what needs to be done when somebody is creating a budget is to determine how much they are going to allocate dollar-wise for the outside resources and how much they need to put in on their own. So I think that we talk about education, but we're talking about education, as John mentioned, globally, and certainly that is extremely difficult to understand what is taking place in the rest of the world, because we here are very isolated in most respects. And even though we can read about things in the newspaper, we can read about things in publications, whether it's in Inc. or an Entrepreneur or Wall Street Journal, we really cannot fully understand what is taking place in a country like China without going to somebody who is involved in that area and knows about that area. And certainly, most of the time, it doesn't cost anything to have an initial conversation with people with an outside resource. Very few people will charge for that initial time, whether that time being a half hour or 45 minutes, because they know that there is the potential of doing some business. And that is where the entrepreneur needs to educate him or herself.
I'd like
Murray Kleiner always says.
Wait. Let Gina throw out what she's been trying to poor thing. Go ahead, Gina. Go.
Oh my goodness, you guys are just full of knowledge. I just like to listen. It's wonderful. I really just wanted to stress the fact, and as an individual entrepreneur, business owner, that I think it is so very important to go back to that education piece that we've really been speaking about throughout the entire podcast this morning in different ways. But I would like to bring it back to the more individual level. And I believe that a huge part of the success of the individual and the individual's business would be to continually grow, to continually learn, to continually stay one step ahead of the technology, to always be seeking what is the newest thing out there. And I can only speak from in my business, in my industry, and in the real estate business, it changes immensely, almost on a daily basis. There's new technology coming out constantly. There's new ways to monitor things, new ways to get things out there on the internet, the marketing, all of that. And if you don't set time aside to continue to learn and to always be reading articles and learning what the newest of the new is, you definitely will be left behind. So I just really wanted to get that into anybody that is in their own business, to no matter how successful you are, you're never too successful to continually learn and to improve on yourself and your knowledge base and, your marketplace, everything. And so, learning globally definitely comes into play, but I think you have to set aside that time to enrich yourself on a weekly or daily basis, wherever you could find that time. So me personally,
Jeannie,
I take time almost every single morning to learn at least one little something that's new that I can implement throughout my week. So that's
Jeannie, you're absolutely correct in that regard, because statistics show that the average person only uses somewhere between 15 and 20% of their full potential, while high achievers use about a third. So everybody has a reservoir that unfortunately was drilled out of them early on by all the negatives, and we live in a world of negative conditioning, and we need to discover what those self-imposed limitations are in order to make changes. And that's why learning and growing and developing oneself is extremely important for the success in one's business organization.
Yeah. I wanted to throw out there about Blockbuster Video. Everybody probably recognizes or remembers Blockbuster. They were a mega organization, and they did not pay attention and look at what happened to them. So I agree with everything. We have to keep an eye opened on the competition. We have to keep an eye opened on the industry. And again, going back to John, getting statistics all the time, this is important. Keep an eye on what you need to accomplish in your organization. And what Jerry said, the mission, vision, purpose of your organization. Stay true to what you're working towards. And you will continue on that path of success, I truly believe. Once you start creating complacency, you always have to stay learning. You always have to stay forward moving. And Gina's suggestion of looking and Gina, just as a curiosity, what do you use on a usual basis to kind of go into where you're learning whatever you're learning? Like, is it a real estate newsletter? Is it is it something like that?
Twofold, because I'm always looking for stuff that's general empowerment, just general inward empowerment, spiritual empowerment, so working on that aspect of myself, and then also with the business end of it. And a lot of it I do go to and watch tutorial videos and or listen to them, maybe while I'm doing something else, just so that I'm always picking up something. Maybe while I'm driving, I'll listen to a tutorial type of video or cassette or disc or something, so that I'm always absorbing empowerment.
Well, again, anything that doesn't change becomes extinct, and the most recent example of that is the A&P food stores, who at one point in time had 16,000 stores. They will now be extinct in the course of the next few months. That is an enormous example of what doesn't change will eventually go away. So learning how to change becomes the challenge, and making certain, as Gina is saying, that you are investing the time, you are blocking off the time, you are scheduling the time to learn and to grow and to develop oneself is certainly essential. Any other thoughts from those?
I think what you were saying is correct, and as a matter of fact, it's interesting. We're seeing something right now in this shopping season, and that reports are that store sales have decreased, a significant amount since last year. However, internet sales have increased. So it's what this shows is that every business, I don't know if there's any exception, but every business that's a brick and mortar must be on the internet also, because that's another kind of business. And if you're going to be just brick and mortar, then you're going to have a problem. And I think this is what's happening also. This is typical of keeping up with technology. Technology is increasing at a rapid rate. On one hand, it's good, but it also scares a lot of people because we have to keep up with it. And some people resent that, but we have no choice. And as you give an example now, with A&P, and with other and Blockbuster, if you're not keeping up with technology, you're going to get lost. And that's why not only do you have to learn and educate yourself before you start a business, but once you start, you will have to keep educating yourself. And all the examples we've just had, by going on the internet, for example, and reading, listening to motivational videos, and going to all these groups where you will meet people and share ideas with them and brainstorm with them, that will help you survive.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Very, very definitely. It is critical that one's education does not stop. Education is ongoing. It needs to be ongoing. And what you know on day one when you begin the business needs to be minimal compared to what you know on day 10 and 20 and 50 and so on and so forth. So learning
I wanted to throw out one more thing, too, before you wrap up completely. When we started this morning, I think it was John had mentioned about education in school. And that, while it's all good and it's a piece, I have a master's, I get it, it's not the all. Before you make the leap or while you're making the leap, you need to use these other resources too. Just because you have an MBA does not mean that you're going to be successful. You have to use all the resources available to you. And that's what will create success.
Well, I think Doreen and I have
good point, Doreen.
Okay. Doreen and I have exchanged some emails about that, and hopefully we'll be able to actually have a podcast on that topic alone in the near future.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's tough. I mean, I've been personally in this past, I guess, week, there's 3 young people that I know in their 20s. They've actually all been displaced from their homes. Their families have lost their homes. 3 different families, 3 different kids, 3 different youth, with no marketable skills. They have some college. They have their high school degrees. They're in their 20s, and try to get a job. I was telling somebody this morning that one of the kids is working as a nurse assistant, making like $9 an hour. The other kid just started working in a bagel store for like $10 an hour, and the other one is got no job right now because she has no transportation. And how do you survive? A logical thing is trying to start the business, which is why we're doing this, because everybody does have a talent and a special skill and a knowledge. Working for somebody is not always an opportunity. We were talking about that this morning. Actually, I guess it was John that we were talking. But, with the $15 an hour minimum wage, a lot of businesses aren't going to be able to hire the kids. And so we have to give people these resources so that they can be smart, they can survive. This is why we're doing that, because we all can be powerful and, I'm hoping that we can give people the opportunity to learn what they need to know so they can enjoy life, and that's kind of the whole point of this whole thing.
A lot about what everybody is saying here is planning and goal setting, and that needs to be the number one component for success in any endeavor, whether it's business or whether it's personal. And knowing in advance what you want to accomplish and taking the time to determine how you are going to accomplish it is certainly extremely important, and that is going to be one of the future topics in these business podcasts. We're going to be we're going to be spending one session on business planning and goal setting along with the business plan, because again, most people are not educated to that degree, and in all fairness, most of the education professors are not business educated, so that they know what is written in the book, and they may be very knowledgeable in that regard, but the real world sometimes is completely different. And it's adjuncts like John who are able to communicate actual experiences because they have been there and they have done that. And unfortunately, too many of these schools are not utilizing adjuncts as much as they could when they have the business experience and they can utilize the real world scenarios. With that said, we need to be wrapping up this afternoon. If there's any other point that anybody on the call would like to make, please do so.
I have a point to make. Wait, we can't close without saying happy birthday to Doreen.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Doreen.
No, it's a week away, Doreen.
Remember, Doreen, you don't get older.
A week away from.
You only get better.
Right.
That's it. Absolutely. This is my 50th year celebrating, and I'm most grateful for the opportunity to know you guys and to keep moving forward to make the world a better place, and can't think of a better place to be at this very point of my life, and I'm most grateful, and thank you so much.
Thank you,
Doreen. That is one of the things that you do, and what Time to Play Foundation does, and this podcast is brought to you on behalf of Time to Play Foundation. So we hope that you have learned something. We hope that those people who are not able to call in will be able to listen. And for those people that have called in and are on the phone today, please go back and listen to the previous episodes. They are available to you, and they covered some of the things that I talked about earlier. With that said, we will once again try to provide more education, more knowledge, more experience, and more expertise next Tuesday, once again, starting at noon. I thank you for joining us on the call. I wish everybody a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.